How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's episode / review of Cinemaholics. Today we are talking specifically about the original / final cut of Blade Runner. You know, the one that came back out in the 80s. To start us off, my name is Ryan. I am a Cinemaholic.
I'm Bella, and I'm a Cinemaholic.
My name is Spencer, and I'm a Cinemaholic. And Blade Runner, I'll read the plot summary. It says, a Blade Runner must pursue and try to terminate 4 replicants who stole a ship in space and have returned to Earth to find their creator. It's directed by Ridley Scott, was released in 1982 to mixed reviews, actually, really mixed reviews, and has since been looked back on as one of the best sci-fi films of all time. I have watched this movie a lot since I was 13. I remember Target in town did not check IDs when you were young, so I went and bought Alien and Blade Runner and watched Blade Runner a lot of times, tons of times. So these guys just watched it for the first time, and I'm really interested to hear what they have to say about this movie. So why don't you guys go ahead and talk about what you thought of it?
Perfect. Awesome. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go?
Okay, I can go. So I thought it was really, how do you say? Like really dark science fiction movie. It was awesome. It was really confusing though. Since it was my first time watching it, I thought I was really overwhelmed with all the things that were happening. But it's not your typical like science fiction action movie. It's more, like I said, dark. And like I thought it would be, because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what the plot was or the story or anything. I just saw the cover and I heard the name and I thought it was like an action blockbuster movie. So, but it wasn't. It was very different from what I thought it was. And
In
it
a
was
good
great.
way.
Yeah, in a good way.
In a
Exactly.
good way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both, I don't know how I've made it so far in my life loving film so much and not knowing anything about this. And so we both, completely blind on this one. And I just have always heard the buzz that this is turning into a classic, not just a cult classic. Like you said, it kind of opened to mixed reviews. But I was kind of not into it at the first. I was like, what is this? Like, where are we going from here? And it was the last 20 to 30 minutes where it got really weird and really dark. And that just, for some reason, worked. And this is definitely one we talked about that we need to watch again. And I guarantee each watch is going to build stuff. We just talked about that with Rick and Morty. This is in a more philosophical way that each time you watch it, you're gonna get something smarter out of it, and it's gonna go really deep. But I loved the noir. I loved the silence of it. There was just this subtle score and not too much wordy dialogue, which was kind of a thing back in the 80s with science fiction, and Star Wars had just come out and stuff. So I really dug that, and I specifically loved the third act. We're going spoilers on this. The third act, when that chase sequence happens, that's what made it all click. When I just sat back and was witnessing this, it got super dark, really gory, and it was just shot so well. And I was like, I'm getting hints of Hitchcock, I'm getting hints of Star Wars, I'm getting some alien stuff in there, and this is just psycho. I love it. And it really clicked and really worked for me. I know you have a lot more to talk about, and that might spark some more discussion with us. What are your thoughts on this?
So I wrote down a couple notes. Blade Runner is a movie I've watched at least 15 times in my life. And most of those times have actually been in like the past maybe 4 years. I love this movie. This movie's in my top probably 5 sci-fi movies ever made. And I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is probably my favorite genre. The first time I saw this movie, I'm about where you guys are. I remember just thinking, what? Like, that was not all what I expected. I expected like this big action movie. And granted, I was 13 years old, but I'd grown up watching Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and there was a kid who was in the grade above me, and we both love movies, and we talked about movies a lot. He's like, you have to see Blade Runner. And so I was like, oh, 14-year-olds telling me to watch Blade Runner. I have to take his advice. So I went and I bought Blade Runner at Target, as I said. I got the final cut, which is the best version of the movie. I've seen most of the versions. I've not seen all of them because there's so many. But yeah, there are new details in this movie every time you see it. One thing that I noticed the most recent time I watched it is eyes play a huge part in this movie. Like, the movie starts literally, like, the third shot in the movie is an eye. And then there's the guy who makes the eyes in the eye factory for the replicants. And then even goes down to Roy Batty kills his creator, which wasn't Wayland. It was Tyrell, right? The Tyrell Corporation. Yeah, he gouges his eyes out. And so I was trying to like think this last time, what could be the significance of the eyes? And what I came up with, and this might be stupid, and this might be a stretch, is that the whole entire point of Blade Runner is it's a philosophical question, as Ryan said. It is, what does it mean to be human? Like, what is humanity? What constitutes a human? That's why the replicants are such a big deal in this story, is because there's somebody who's struggling with the fact that they're not humans and they're basically slaves. Roy Batty, towards the end of the movie, says,
quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? That's what it is to be a slave.
And that line really kind of sparks some thought in my mind. And I feel like the eyes are because we see things in a different way because we're humans. And maybe that's a stretch, like I said, but that's just like one of those things that watching this movie and like seeing that and thinking about that and provoking that type of thought, because it's so detailed, makes me think that this movie is just absolutely brilliant. Do you guys have anything to add with that comment?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that. I think that's right on track, because I mean, that's the whole point, is you can't really tell the difference between who a human is and who's a replicant. And how you determine that is by looking at their eyes when you do the test, and seeing that, and that it plays a huge role of, is seeing believing, and into that whole, you know, it opens so many doors with so many questions. And I think that is 100% on purpose. Ridley Scott, for me personally, is a hit and a miss on a lot of his movies. But this one and Alien and even The Martian, I really enjoyed. But a lot of the really good, deep ones, he knows what he's doing. Like, nothing is on accident. And I would put him down as one of the greats in that aspect, because he really is so detail-oriented. And the way this was portrayed, in the way that it provokes so much thought without explaining really anything. I mean, you get 30 seconds of an opening crawl, and that's kind of how they build the whole world. She had mentioned a lot with it was kind of similar to Ghost in the Shell, but it did it right, and just how well they built the world and the magnificence and the high tech, and just, it was awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting point about Ghost in the Shell, because it was inspired by Blade Runner. Just a quick thing.
Ghost in the Shell was.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was like,
Yeah, it came out way prior to that. There were a couple more things I would talk about. I'm glad that you really liked the last 20 minutes, because the last 20 minutes of that are perfectly executed, in my opinion. There is not a false note in the entire thing. It ends a little bit abruptly, but I think that's purposeful. And now that finally, however many damn years, it's been like 30 years, 35 years later, we're getting a Blade Runner sequel. Finally, hopefully we'll get some closure on what happens with Rick Deckard. But a couple more things I wanted to talk about is Roy Batty in this movie. Like, the first couple times I watched it, I was like, man, what a great villain. But I am fully convinced, like the past 3 times I watched this, he's not even the villain of the movie, because that's the great thing, is it all depends on where you like fall with this. Are these guys like slaves because one's like a pleasure model, and then like their work, like the whole entire reason they're banned is because of a mutiny on some distant planet, right? Is that what it said during? Yeah, thought so. So it's like they were banned for something that they like didn't even do, and then killed and have to live their life, like he said, in fear. But are their feelings and all that? And that's just adds to the greatness of this movie, in my opinion, is because it's one of those movies that you can just lay down your bed and just like think about for a really long time. Like what does this mean? And what does this mean? And all that. I think that's great.
Agreed. My initial thoughts on that is it's executed the way great AI is executed, is that it's able to present those thoughts. And that's always the thought process, right? Is if you create something that can think and feel, and I think that's the key, is that it can feel. If it can start feeling emotions, does it then classify it as a human? And like, where's that line between what is human and what's not human, and where do you draw the line? I mean, the purpose of a Blade Runner is to go murder these things, but they've evolved to the point where they can feel things. So does that become murder? But that's the ending sentence in the opening crawl, is this is not considered murder, it's retirement.
It's considered retirement, exactly. And that is just like, man. Okay, so final question for you guys. And this kind of leads into what we're thinking on the sequel. So not only are you excited for the sequel, but I think the big question that this film poses, and I want both of you to answer, is Rick Deckard a replicant?
I honestly never even thought about that.
Yeah, me neither. I'll totally
What? Okay. So he's a replicant, guys. He's totally a replicant. And you're going to have to go back and rewatch the movie. But there is a scene in the film. It's a dream sequence. Perhaps you remember it. The unicorn running in the woods.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So at the end of the movie, the cop with the like weird, crazy looking eyes, you know, he leaves behind an origami figure in his house of a unicorn. That Rick Deckard dreamed of earlier. So the idea is that maybe not only, so even if the cop was a replicant who was having a dream of a unicorn, he put it down, Rick Deckard also had this dream and was awoken from it earlier. If the cop's not a replicant, then the answer is that he knew those thoughts because he knows that Rick Deckard is a replicant. He knows that those thoughts were implanted into his mind. The way that Tyrell, the creator, knows that there was the whole entire thoughts of the backstory in the girl's head, who's a replicant, who Rick Deckard leaves at the end with. So Rick Deckard totally is a replicant. I think. I feel like the Blade Runner 2049, that's going to be the main thing that it answers.
You just blew my mind.
See, now you're going to want to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, and it makes sense, just like you said, because there is that whole scene where Decker is explaining to the girl, and he's like, you had this experience, right? You had this experience, right? And he's like, because those are so-and-so's niece or whatever. Those are her memories given to you. That thought literally never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And my whole universe is turned upside down now.
That's why it's such a great movie.
Ordered replicants to go and murder other replicants.
Exactly. Being a Blade Runner is like a replicant designed to hunt down other replicants who have these memories and thoughts implanted into them.
Then that is straight up murder.
That's
not
only, it's like that great line in Rick and Morty.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps.
Ooh la la, someone's gonna get laid in college.
Oh my gosh. What are
I
you?
I was sleepy when I watched this movie. So I'll have to rewatch it. But I'm really excited for the new one because I want to see how they're going to develop the new technology. and how it's gonna look. I'm really excited for it because I really liked the way it looked. Like in the 80s, like I loved it. It was so cool. It was so awesome. So I just want to see how they're gonna make it. And Harrison Ford is gonna be in this movie too, right?
Right.
So,
Which that I've avoided all trailers and stuff for the new one, except for I did right at the very, very beginning watch a part of the trailer.
I watched the teaser trailer. I don't know if I told you that.
I think I watched the teaser too.
I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, because the opening shot of the teaser.
Yeah, the opening shot of the teaser, which is probably playing right now, is amazing. It blew my mind. Yeah, that's why I watched it, because I couldn't stop watching.
Right. But I think somewhere in the teaser, he says, Ryan Gosling's character says that he is looking for Decker because he was the one.
I had your job once. I was good at it. Things were simpler then.
So that like totally, oh my gosh, I don't even know what this is going to be about anymore, because is Ryan Gosling then going to be as well?
If he's a Blade Runner, my suspicion, that's my own theory. That's my own personal theory. Some people think that only Rick Deckard is a replicant.
Right.
My theory is that they created the Blade Runners, which is a whole entire breed of replicants to hunt down the replicants. That's my thoughts.
This is all just a giant conspiracy.
Yeah.
Trump did it. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so let's score this puppy.
Dude, I don't even know anymore because you just like flipped everything upside down on me.
I'll score it first. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10, obviously. This is legitimately one of the better sci-fi movies I've ever seen. Yeah, initially, like I said, in first viewing, it would have been a lower score. But after watching it, having discussions like this with other people where I can actually geek out about this stuff for 30 minutes at a time, this has become one of my favorite movies. I freaking love this movie. It's so genius and smart. So y'all are up.
Okay, I'll score it 8.5 out of 10 because I was sleepy, didn't get the whole message, I guess. So I didn't understand the whole thing, but I'm gonna rewatch it and it's probably gonna be a higher score.
Yeah, and I knew it would be a higher score the second time that I watched it.
Yeah.
I originally gave it like an 8 yesterday, and I was like, okay, this is a solid movie. But even just now, I think I have to go a little bit higher, at least an 8.5, because of that whole theory. It's like that adds a whole nother element to this whole thing. So I'm gonna stick with an 8.5, but I guarantee it's going to go up when I can. And it's like a lot of older movies. I think a lot of our generation has that issue going into it because of the pacing, which is brilliant, but it's not what we're used to. We're an ADD generation where we need cut, story, plot. And it's slow, and that takes getting used to. And so I think as well, now that I have experienced it and I know what I'm getting into in that aspect, I think it's just going to unravel and definitely get higher every single time.
Yeah.
Yeah, eventually I guarantee you'll view this as like a perfect movie. But yeah, it does take time. And it's one of those movies that's just like kind of like Big Lebowski, where it's just every time you watch it, you get deeper layers within the movie. So, that about wraps it up, guys. You can follow me on Twitter at SpinnyHind, and Stardust, at SpinnyHind as well. Stardust, super fun app, guys. You should all check it out, download it, and follow Ryan, and then follow me, Bela.
Awesome. Yes, follow me on Stardust. Download that app, guys. Like, honestly, it really was made for people like us. It's the Snapchat and the Instagram of movies, of reacting to movies, and it's so fun to play around with. Also, follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd at @Rye_Gordon.
Okay, and follow me on Twitter at Bela Romano _ and Stardust and Letterboxd at Bela Romano, which is Bela Romano. So, yeah.
Awesome. Sweet. Thank you guys for watching. I'll end this video too. Unless do we have anything else that we want to plug?
No.
Comment. That's what I wanted to say. I did want to say, comment down below if there's more movies like this. We want to definitely review the wide releases every week, but if there are movies like this you want to have discussions about, comment down below if you want to be a part of the conversation and suggest what movies we should be watching. Yeah, and Connor, since I know you're watching this, I'm told them we need to watch The Warriors. We'll be watching The Warriors soon. Also, guys, email us if you'd ever be interested in being a co-host at some point on this. Cinemaholicproductions@gmail.com. It should be right there. So go ahead and sign us out, guys. Okay, awesome. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time. Bye.